listening to the Owl Hour.
10-5, chicken right, touchdown!
You're listening to the Owl Hour with your host, Rio White, joined by...
10-5, chicken right, touchdown!
You're listening to the Owl Hour with your host, Rio White, joined by Devon, Delarm, and Henry Higuita. You're listening to the Owl Hour with your host, Rio White, joined by Devon, Delarm, and Henry Higuita.
Good afternoon, Kennesaw State. This is the Owl Hour, your weekly sports show hosted by Rio White, joined with Henry Higuita and Devon Delarm. And this week we're going to be talking about some of the exciting sports that are going on in the Atlanta area, especially with the Braves being in the World Series. They clinched the NLCS over the weekend, and now they have played twice, won once, and lost once. But there's also a lot of KSU news to go over as well, and so we'll get into that. And so we'll go ahead and start out with the big KSU news from last week, which is the football team with yet another victory. They are now 6-1 on the season. They had a 30-7 victory at Campbell University in North Carolina. And for the second consecutive game, the defense has not allowed any points. This one, the Campbell University Camels scored on a fumble return, but the defense has really been on lockdown the last couple of weeks. Over the past 5 games alone, the opposing teams have only scored a combined 38 points, so that's just a little over 7 points per game. Very, very impressive for a Kennesaw team that was already known for the offense, but the defense has really stepped up since the opening game, which was a little bit of a struggle against Reinhardt, but really has been very impressive. So, yeah, Xavier Shepard, another impressive performance for him. This time, he also had over 100 passing yards, which is a little bit different from the previous weeks where he's always, has more rushing yards than passing yards. But this time he actually had more passing yards and had 2 touchdowns through the air, 1 on the ground this time. So they're mixing it up just a little bit, although they, of course, for the most part, run the ball. In this game, the Owls did not quite break that 300-yard mark that, of course, they are accustomed to doing. Of course, it's still an accomplishment every time, but a combined 258 rushing yards, which is still pretty incredible on the ground for the Owls. 370 total yards for the game, and they did actually have the time of possession advantage. A lot of times they score so quickly that other teams have the ball more, but in this case, they scored, I believe, what was 30 unanswered points because the first score of the game was that fumble return by Campbell, but immediately on the next possession, the Owls responded with a touchdown, and from that point on, they continued to score, and perhaps the most impressive touchdown of the game was actually the very last one because it happened as time was expiring, and the Owls were not letting up at the end of the game. They were up 23-7, but the Owls decided they were going to continue to fight until the whistle, which they did, and they got the closing touchdown right there as time expired. So that is another sign of a team that is in it for the long haul this season. They are still, as of right now, number 12 in the FCS stats ranking. So there's one other ranking that has them at number 10. So heading into next week's game against Gardner-Webb, they will be considered number 10 as far as we will officially say right now. But yes, 6-1 this season. Of course, they only lost to Georgia Tech, but it is a team that is coming together right at the right time. They are really coming together defensively, of course. Again, last week, or the week before that, they had shut out North Carolina A&T 14-0. This time, again, the only point scored by Campbell through a fumble return. So a lot of good stuff coming from the football team. And right now, at this point, I believe they only have 4 games remaining on the season. And next week will be the second to last home game of the season. It will be against Gardner-Webb, which is someone I think, if I'm not mistaken, Kennesaw has played in every year of their existence and is someone that the team is very familiar with. So it should be a pretty exciting game. Gardner Webb is 3-4 on the season, but of course, as we've seen against Campbell and every other team so far this year, there will be nothing taken for granted, and the defense will be looking to extend their streak of not giving up any points for 2 straight games now. So that will be pretty fun. The next 2 games after that are away games at Robert Morris and North Alabama, and then the final game will be the November 20th game against Monmouth. Not the first time that Monmouth and Kennesaw have played at the very last game of the season, so that one should be pretty exciting as well. I think they have already written a preview for next week's game, if I'm not mistaken. So it looks like right now, after one of the previous wins, right now, Coach Bohannon, the head coach of KSU, is now second place in Big South Conference career victories, which tells you how successful Kennesaw has been in their entire existence. He has 58 conference wins as the head coach of KSU, which he's been the only one, and right now is only 5 conference victories away from the head coach of Coastal Carolina's record of 63. Of course, Coastal Carolina is now doing it with the big boys up there, having a lot of fun in the FBS. But right now, that is a pretty exciting stat. The fact that the Kennesaw State football team has only existed since 2015, and they're already moving into the most successful team in Big South Conference history, which began actually in that first season, or since that first season. They have not once had a losing season. The first season, I believe, was 6-5, but after that, they have improved every year. I believe they were 8-3 the next season after that, and then, of course, they've been a pretty consistent top 25 FCS team since that point. So it says a lot about Bohannon as well as the players and the other coaches on the staff about how serious this team is about competing every single year. Right now, the defense, now I can give you some official stats, not just my opinions on the defense, but the defense ranks first in the Big South Conference in total defense, giving up just an average of 265 yards per game, a bulk of that probably against Georgia Tech as well. In scoring defense, of all the games, they've only averaged giving up 15.4 points per game, which is pretty impressive. So, and again, heading into the Gardner-Webb game, a few final stats here. Officially, KSU has been ranked in the FCS Top 25 in the multiple ranking systems 54 consecutive weeks in the top 25. So that dates back to 2017, which was sort of their breakout year, their first playoff season. Now, this is probably something that will never be ended, but the Owls have at least one rushing touchdown in 64 consecutive games. I don't think that record will end. That's simply the nature of KSU's offense. It would take a lot for that record to end. And then Xavier Shepard, third in the FCS with 12 rushing touchdowns, so pretty impressive right there. And, now we can move on to some other sports at KSU briefly before we touch on Atlanta. Heartbreaking loss for the women's soccer team, although they will still make the ASUN tournament. They will have given up a little bit of a higher seed, having lost to a strong Liberty team. Heading into the game, Liberty was 10-6-1. Kennesaw State was 7-6-2 on the season. And Kennesaw State had the lead. So let me get the times correct here. So Jenna Volrath and Agata Gianni had goals in quick succession. So Jenna Volrath had her goal in the 75th minute, and Gianni had her goal in the 80th minute. And so it was a 2-0 lead in the 80th minute, and just 2 minutes after that, Liberty scored Casey Jameson with her 7th goal of the season. And then in the 90th minute, the equalizer came with McKinley Burkett equalizing it. They went to that overtime period, as they call it in college soccer, and Liberty University finished it off with a 3-2 victory. That's pretty tough. It was a home game for Kennesaw. It was the final match of the season. A tough way to lose, but still a chance to do something in the ASUN tournament. And of note, the first match, or the match that KSU will have in the ASUN tournament, is against a team that they've already defeated in Central Arkansas, who is a very strong team as well. But Central Arkansas, KSU beat 4-3 away at Arkansas, so it is going to be pretty interesting to see what the team can do at a neutral location. Looks like this year's tournament will be in Fort Myers, Florida. So it is, if you just look at the seeds, it might look like a tough matchup. But again, KSU has defeated this team once, so it would be very interesting to see what can happen during that matchup. The volleyball team is now really starting to get into form. It's a 6-game winning streak for the volleyball team, who is now, at one point, they were sitting at 8-8. They're now 14-8. Which is a record that is more reflective of their past, and they have been doing very well. This past weekend, they had 3 matches. They won all of them: 3-0 against Lipscomb, 3-0 against Bellarmine, and then 3-1 against Eastern Kentucky. And so this is a team really, really starting to get into its form, like we said. Also of note, right before, let me see here, they also had a match before that, the previous week, where they had won 3 in a row as well. And their next match will be the final game of a road stand, I guess you could call it, against Liberty. It will be in Virginia tomorrow at 6 p.m. And then they come back home for a couple of matches next week on that weekend. Friday the 5th against Stetson, and then Sunday the 7th against Florida Gulf Coast. So it will be pretty interesting to see, how the volleyball team can continue this winning streak. And again, is a team that has really improved, because it was a team that had much better records in previous seasons, but I think they're really starting to show that old form again. And I believe in total they have 5 matches remaining in the regular season. Of course, they're in the heat of ASUN Atlantic Sun Conference play, and they'll really be looking for a strong seeding position as the tournament starts to unfold. So now we can go to Atlanta sports. Finally, a lot of stuff. Obviously, the big news is the Atlanta Braves not only clinched the World Series spot last Saturday against the Dodgers in Game 6, a 4-2 victory with an outstanding pitching performance by Tyler Matzik, but also they won Game 1 of the World Series. They dropped Game 2, but it's pretty exciting to be in Atlanta right now, guys. What do y'all think?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. First time they've been to a World Series in what, like 22
years.
22 years.
Yep.
It's amazing. Gosh, we thought we had it last year, and then it was a real bummer when the Dodgers came back. But hey, now it's our time to shine. It's exciting to see just the turnaround this team has had. I mean, we were discussing this a little bit earlier, but the fact that mid-season, it looked like they just weren't going to cut it. They just weren't going to make the playoffs. But, a few front office decisions, bringing back Adam Duvall, getting Eddie Rosario, bringing in Jock Peterson, and it was, even with that Acuna injury, which was so devastating, and Mike Soroka being out, we still had good options. And we had a competitive team that managed to turn around the season. And now look, we are just 3 wins away from possibly winning the World Series, knock on wood, But yeah, it's exciting. I'm really happy this is happening. Of course, we have the World Series is now coming to Atlanta. The next 3 games, games 3, 4, and 5, will be played at Truist Park. So it's exciting. We'll see how it goes. The Braves generally perform better at home, so it's exciting to see that possibility.
Yeah, I think it's definitely to see, like, we only need 3 wins, and
Exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, we only need 3 wins, and we actually have a title. And again, we got Rosario, who won the NLCS playoffs MVP. I mean, major hitter for us, and to do this without Acuna, I think really strikes Atlanta as a team that's deadly all around and not built around one player. And you can only give him props for it.
No, I agree. I mean, I think Eddie Rosario was a player too that at one point was considered one of the top prospects in the Twins organization before he got briefly traded to the Indians. And then Atlanta played very smart around the trade deadline because they knew they were competitive enough even though their record was right around 500, right around the All-Star break, but they also had lost Soroka already by that point, and then Acuna got injured. So they got Jock Peterson. They got, they had Rosario, and they really played it smart. And I think, it says something that the executives believed in this team enough to where they were buyers instead of sellers. Because I think had they had a few more losses at the All-Star break, maybe they were going to go the other way. But yeah, it's great. I think this weekend, we all need to stay safe from the traffic, though. It's gonna
yeah.
If you're down there in the Battery,
it's going to be insane because there's going to be the Atlanta United game and the
that's
Braves
right.
game are going to happen at the same time. And I hear Harry Styles is in town.
Harry Styles is in town. I just want to apologize to anyone who lives in the Battery and anyone who lives around those areas. 'Cause I know I have some friends over there.
Just don't go out.
Stay indoors.
Stay indoors. This is your
chop
stay at
on.
home, chop on from your porch.
From your porch, there you go.
From the safety of your own home. Because, that's right. Now, in Atlanta United, we'll get to that. But that's a lot of exciting stuff. The Hawks are doing well. Trae Young right now, he's had some really impressive performances, as you might expect. But, the Braves, again, there's a lot that can be said about this team. I mean, they made it this far. I really think that during the NLCS, and we spoke a little bit about it last week, but the team had to fight this sort of weird stigma of playing a big market LA team that, the people on ESPN, a lot of the sports artists say, oh, well, that team is too talented to lose to Atlanta. But Atlanta has that fighting spirit. I mean, the players have known what they've been up against the whole time, but I think now the fans have seen that having to prove themselves, like we said, without Acuna is really impressive. I think that says a lot. So, I think Ian Anderson is the starter for Game 3. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think this says a lot about the team and the organization itself, mostly because it's like, yes, there was a point where we were under 500, and there was a point where we weren't looking too good, and then we see this Acuna injury, and it just feels like we're getting hit left from right. And there was a point where the front office could have been like, you know what, we don't have faith in our team, and we don't feel our team can make this push. But they went the opposite way, and I think the players can appreciate that. I think the fans can appreciate that. And I think everyone all around sees this as a win when we are in the World Series because of people in the front office who decided to go out and get those guys to really make the final push.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So props to General Manager Alex Anthopoulos and everyone over there at the front office. Good things there. And to comment on what you said, Rio, Freddie Freeman, they asked him, right, when the series, I think, was like, 3-2, 3-1, something like that. They asked him, are you guys worried? Do you guys have something sort of to prove here? Because last year you were in the situation where you were ahead in the World Series. You were not World Series, the
Playoffs.
NLCS, yeah. And, you were ahead, and then it kind of slipped away from you. What do you guys feel about that? And he said, well, yes, we do have to sort of break from that sort of all those comments of, the Braves screwed it up last year.
Right.
We obviously want to get there, and that's what they're trying to do, and that's what they that's what they had in mind. And hey, they put the effort forward. They did it.
They did do it,
which is exciting, and that's going to provide a huge boost in morale for them. Coming back home to the fans. I mean, I think I mentioned this last week, but a big difference between this playoff/World Series thing and last year's was the fact that last year's was entirely played in Houston. We didn't get any games. We didn't get any games in Atlanta, right? And just the fact, Atlanta crowds, especially during that world that I keep saying World Series win, NLCS win.
Yes.
It kind of did feel like they'd won the World Series. It was so exciting.
Right.
The fans were there.
Yeah, the crowds really came into their own.
Yeah, and so that really helps, just having the crowds to back the players, to be there for them. It's going to change the game. And it did, I think, in the NLCS.
No, I can totally agree with you because, you can only play in a stadium so long where you're just constantly getting booed every time you're up to bat or every time you're pitching and there's a bad call either way. And I think it's also just a big boost in morale for the Braves to break this Atlanta stigma of we're going to blow a lead and every time we are going to blow it. And to break that stigma and to kind of come to the World Series after holding on to a nice lead, I think not only boost the Braves, but boost the fans in Atlanta as well.
Yeah, there's a saying out there that sports are made by the fans, right? The fans make up the sport. So if we have the fans, well, we can have some good performance in the sports. So that's what I'm excited about.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of another exciting playoff contending team, certainly Atlanta United is playing really well. They are under a certain amount of pressure, but they're really doing very well. They had a big game yesterday. Thoughts on that, Henry?
My thoughts. Yesterday, very exciting game. At first, it looked like it didn't look too good, and I'll be honest, like while this game was going on, I was also watching the Braves, and well, yesterday wasn't a very good day for the Braves, but I was like, darn, both Atlanta teams losing. That's not ideal. And then, I first of all, let me talk about last week. Last week, Atlanta United had a midweek game against New York City here at home. We talked about how that was possibly their hardest game out of the ones that were left. Unfortunately, they did drop a point because they allowed a last-minute free kick goal, which sucked. After that, they didn't play over the weekend, but a few of their fellow playoff contenders did. So unfortunately, they dropped to 7th place that over the weekend because literally almost every single result that could have gone wrong went wrong. Philadelphia beat Nashville. Montreal tied, gaining themselves a point. New York City won twice, so they're back in it. But they do have a game up. Atlanta United has one game less than them, so that could help. Flashback to yesterday. We have Atlanta United facing Miami in the Benz, their penultimate home game of the season. Their last one will be on Saturday against Toronto. But at first it looked like it was going downhill. Conceded a penalty kick. Gonzalo Higuita puts it in, and Atlanta United are down 1-0 at halftime. Doesn't look too good. Then Pineda enters Marcelino Moreno. He was on the bench. And I guess this is kind of the tactical sort of genius of Gonzalo Pineda. Moreno's been a huge boost to the midfield and the attack. So it was kind of question marks in everyone's head why he kept him on the bench. But then when he put him in, you could really see why. He caught the opposition really tired. They were, with Marcelino's energy and his skill to create plays and stuff, it really helped. Free kick came up, and Luis Araujo put it right in, just direct strike, cannon down the middle, no chance for the goalkeeper. It was 1-1, and then Joseph Martinez gets one in. It's disallowed, and then Joseph says, no, hold on, this is my time to shine, scores another one, gets the lead, 2-1, and Atlanta United manages to grab 3 points from that game. It's exciting, and it's really good to see that Joseph started the game, and it's really good to see that Joseph is starting to get his goals. That's obviously going to make him feel better. It's going to make the team feel better. We talked about this, but having Joseph, just having him on the field is psychologically, it psychologically affects the defense. It psychologically affects your opponents because you can't really leave him alone. But it also gives a morale boost to the team because he's such a leader for them. He's kind of the kind of idol of the team, really. Like everyone wants to, be like him, and just having him there, having the fans supporting him, it's so crucial. It's so important. It's so good to see. They created several chances. Araujo actually assisted Joseph's goal, and he scored his own. So obviously, we're starting to see that investment pay off. That past transfer window, just getting him, that was a huge move for Atlanta. So we're glad to see him actually that investment pay off. So with that win, Atlanta is 6th right now with 31 games. They have 46 points, and really, we say this every week, but it's still a very, very close race. Nothing's really set in stone except for the fact that New England is first. No one's going to take that away from them. We'll talk a little bit about that later. But Atlanta could, if they win over the weekend, if they beat Toronto, and then the right set of results comes up, which I know that we haven't had like the best track record of that happening, but if it does, Atlanta could jump to 4th, which is big because being in 4th place guarantees at least one playoff game at home, right? So obviously Atlanta's home performance is way, way better than their away performance. For obvious reasons, but just being able to climb up in the standings a little bit, that's going to give them a better chance in the playoffs. So really for that we need Miami to beat New York City. Likely not going to happen, but considering Miami is literally playing for their playoff contention, a little bit more about that later. Maybe it'll happen. I don't know. New York City hasn't been too hot on the road, so that could help. Red Bulls tying Montreal, that would be excellent. As long as DC don't win, that helps Atlanta. As long as Nashville can beat Orlando, because Orlando's another one of the teams that are, fighting for one of those top playoff spots. And Cincinnati beating Philadelphia, as unlikely as that seems, because Cincinnati has officially clinched the wooden spoon. For those of you who don't know what that is given to the worst team, last place. They've clinched their third wooden spoon in a row. Can you believe it? Oof. That's tough. So yeah, if those results can pan out, maybe they don't perfectly, but if they can, well then Atlanta will be in a much better spot. As we mentioned, their last home game, their next game, will be against Toronto Saturday at 6:00. It's going to be exciting. It's time for some other MLS news. New England Revolution have officially set a new single-season points record with 73 points after they beat Colorado last night. They have one game left, and it's against Miami, who is not doing too hot. Actually, Miami is really on the hot seat because if they will get eliminated from playoff contention. They're mathematically not eliminated yet. They still have a chance, although it's very, very microscopic. They need to win their last two games, which they don't have it easy because obviously one of them is against New England, and they've just set a new season point record, and they're the strongest team in the East and very likely the league. They also get eliminated if DC win or tie. If Red Bulls and Montreal win, either one of them wins or they tie. If Columbus win, or if Miami doesn't figure out how to make up a 18-goal differential in 2 games. So I'm not saying there's a chance. I'm saying they're basically eliminated. But you never know. We'll see how that happens. Other news around the league, Nashville has clinched the playoff spot in the East. Colorado clinched the playoff spot in the West. San Jose has been eliminated from playoff contention. And Philadelphia will clinch a playoff spot if they win or if Montreal and Red Bulls tie, because that'll make it mathematically impossible to reach them. And that's all I've got for Atlanta/U.S. soccer here.
All right. Devon, do you have any thoughts on anything right now?
As far as the NFL?
NFL or whatever else you want to talk about.
We can talk
Sorry,
about
He got really nervous when you asked him about soccer.
I was like, my face turned red.
He's like, I don't know about that
football.
football.
I meant
wrong football.
Whatever you'd like to talk about.
I understand. Falcons beat the Miami Dolphins 30-28. Matt Ryan going 25 for 40 for 336 yards and 2 touchdowns. Did have an interception in there, but we're not going to talk about that part. Cordell Patterson got a touchdown, 14 carries for 60 yards. And let's talk about Kyle Pitts, receiver, tight end. What is this man? A beast is what I call him. 7 receptions for 163 yards, averaging 23.3 yards. Russell Gage had a touchdown along with Calvin Ridley. We're not even going to talk about that name because I can't pronounce
Young Ho Kim? No.
Yeah, Olukin. He had an interception, and I'm going to give him sacks for that, applause for that. And Deion Jones had a sack in there. Overall, Falcons played really well, pulling it together towards the end. Really, really racking them up in the second quarter, getting 13 points and then 10 points in the fourth quarter there to come out on top over Miami Dolphins. Other NFL scores, Case Keenum.
Yes, that's right.
Whoa, where is this man coming from?
The ghost of Case Keenum has returned.
It's crazy. The whole Browns backup team beat the Denver Broncos, which says a lot about the Denver Broncos.
Yeah.
These guys didn't have a quarterback, didn't have a running back, most of their O-line is out, as well as a lot of their defense is out, and they still were able to come together and beat these Broncos, which says a lot about the Broncos right now and says a lot about the Browns. And
Especially since the Broncos started the season 3-0, and they've been awful since.
Yeah,
I'm not really sure what's going on.
What is
over
going
there.
on, man?
Well, which really sucks because a lot of those 3-0 teams are now actually kind of not doing too hot because they're sticking with those 3 wins. And I don't know if they said, "Oh, we're 3-0, that's it for us this season," but it's not looking too good. And honestly, I could just give props to Kevin Stefanski, who's really come together as a coach and really come together as overall great coach who's a quarterback's coach and he's a running backs coach, and he's able to really throw these guys together. And you see Case Keenum come back on top is something else we love to see. Other scores from the NFL this past week. Saints beat the Seahawks in overtime, 13. Was it overtime? Yeah, it was overtime, 13-10. Colts beat the 49ers, 30-18. Cardinals stay undefeated, beating the Texans 31-5. Rams beat the Lions 28-19. That was a nice reunion there.
And especially that beginning of the game, the fake. There was a fake onside kick by the Lions, and then a fake punt by the Lions, but they still lost.
Yeah.
It was cool and all, but
it was great.
You should probably win if you're going to do all that.
Yeah, we would hope that something were to come out of that.
Yeah.
Bucks beat the Bears 38-3. Whatever happened to Justin Fields, we love him, but we also want to see him succeed. Raiders beat the Eagles 33-22. Patriots slaughter the New York Jets 54-13.
I don't think anybody saw the non-Tom Brady Patriots scoring 54 points.
I know. We got to give props to Mac Jones,
Yeah.
best QB to come out of that class. We'll have to see.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
He's pretty good. Giants beat the Panthers. I guess Panthers are happy with their 3 wins now. 25-3.
That's another team.
Yeah. Bengals beat the Ravens 41-17.
Okay, Joe Burrow.
Jeez.
Okay.
Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase. They love that connection. Lamar Jackson was not able to pull it together that time. Packers beat the Washington 24-10.
Correct.
Titans beat the Chiefs 27-3.
Yeah. Mahomes had some issues. I don't know what exactly it was, but it was 27, and that was at half too. It was already 27
it was pretty fast. We were able to tell who was going to win that one. And we often find it weird because I like to think that maybe we thought Lamar Jackson would get figured out this season. Maybe another player, Derrick Henry, was going to get figured out this season. They were going to be able to finally stop these guys. But no, it was the fan favorite Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, and I wonder why. It's hard to say right now. But yeah, maybe it's just they figured him out. Maybe that's just it. But
and we can't help. But I always feel a little sympathy. I guess that Madden curse finally cut out to him. When you're
skip
on
the year, but
yeah, skip the year. But when you're on 2 out of the 3 Maddens, man,
Yeah.
some curses got to hit you. In other news around the league, Melvin Ingram requests a trade from the Steelers. J.J. Watt will undergo shoulder surgery, miss the rest of the season. Mark Ingram was finally traded back to the Saints for a future late-round pick.
That was odd.
It was a little odd, and you can't help but look at the Saints and go, well, you guys just want your running backs back. You guys want the old days back is what we're looking for. Jabril Peppers suffered a ruptured ACL and missed the remainder of the season. Now I got a little story for you guys. I don't know.
Okay.
Story time.
Story time. Over the past weekend, Tom Brady threw his 600th touchdown, and Mike Evans didn't realize it and gave it to a fan. Now the fan was able to strike up a deal between the Bucks, and let me tell you what this guy got to give back the 600th touchdown ball to Tom Brady. He got 2 signed Tom Brady jerseys and a signed helmet, a signed Mike Evans jersey and cleats, 2 season tickets for the next 2 years, $1,000 in credit to the Buck store, and Tom Brady gave him a full Bitcoin.
That's
What?
amazing. The things that you can get when you accidentally receive gifts.
I want this guy to be my negotiator. 'Cause
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
I
This
mean-
guy knows how to.
This guy knows how to
Dang.
get stuff, man.
Knows how to haggle.
He knows how to haggle.
Alrighty.
Part of the trade, man.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Wow.
Man.
Yeah. Really exciting game tonight. I believe Packers and Cardinals. So the undefeated Cardinals and the 1-loss Packers. That'll be really exciting. You got your old generation, the new generation,
That was very
head
fair.
to head. Kyler Murray is just going to continue to be really, really impressive. So
He's definitely making that MVP run. We can
Yeah.
look at him in. I don't know. It might be time to play some bets on Kyler Murray and see if he may go all the way to the MVP.
He might.
He might.
He
He
has
might.
the ability, so that should be a really good game. So the Falcons, yet another chance. Now, we wouldn't be saying this at the beginning of the season, but the Panthers, since, as you said, are probably content with their 3 wins because they've been playing so poorly for some bizarre reason over the last 4 weeks.
Sam Darnold got benched, and
Yeah.
they brought in that backup quarterback, PJ Walker.
That's
and,
right. That's right.
Dude,
I don't know.
I had high hopes for the Panthers. I don't know if you guys remember, they're my dark horses for the season.
Yeah.
That
And
prediction
at
was looking
first,
really
it
well.
looked
It was
good for
looking
3
really
It
well.
was, and
But
Things happen.
I don't know what happened to those guys.
But the Falcons have a home game against the Panthers on Halloween, so the Falcons may be able to spook the Panthers.
is it going to be a trick or a
And,
treat?
Well, you never know. The Falcons, I think, maybe will come out at the end of the year as maybe the team that people thought were going to be the worst, but really weren't all that bad. I think there's not an award for that. I don't know even what you would call that, but really maybe not as bad as people thought because they're 3-3. They've actually played pretty tough in those wins, so it's been really interesting to watch. Staying in Atlanta, while all this whole baseball mess has been going on, and the NFL as well, the NBA season has started. Most teams with 4 games into the season, and the Atlanta Hawks are looking really, really good. 3-1. They had a tough loss to the Cavs, but Trae Young is doing Trae Young things right now. First game, 19 points, 14 assists. Then goes with 24, 32, and 31 the next 3 games, with at least 7 assists in each of those 3. So, again, it's looking like another all-star season for Trae Young, a really, really impressive player. And really the team as a whole with Gallinari, a lot of players, that could be another – I mean, they can make another run in the playoffs. You just never know. But
Well, cross our fingers, knock on wood.
yeah, knock on wood. They could very well make another run. So the Atlanta Hawks, I think this year is going to be another kind of odd NBA year with a lot of kind of strange results, but you just never know. It's going to be an exciting year all across the board. So, yeah, I think what we're going to talk about next, world soccer, is that the next
Yeah,
one up
I
on
mean,
the
World
list?
soccer.
My next segment here is
Yeah.
Premier League.
That's right. We had a little bit of an embarrassing moment. I think Henry can go into detail about that. But, yes, so the Manchester United had a really unfortunate moment at Liverpool. What happened there, Henry?
It was not a fun day at Old Trafford.
Yes, excuse me, not at Liverpool. This was at home. They got embarrassed at
Yeah,
home.
it would have been better if it were at Liverpool. I mean, it wouldn't have, but dang. It was, Liverpool trounced Man United 5-0.
5-0, folks.
In their
5.
202nd meeting, which is interesting. Salah scored a hat trick, and we also had some goals from Naby Keita and Diogo Jota. It started really, really close-ish. Man U was actually getting some good chances. Bruno Fernandes had a very good shot early in the game, puts it over the bar, which is unfortunate. And then after that, they I think it was Naby Keita that got him for his goal first, and I think that was like the 5th minute, something like that.
Right.
It was
really
crazy early.
They had 2 goals within 15 minutes, I
Yeah,
think, in that game.
And after that first goal, I mean, Man U was still attacking a bit, but then they just had too many mistakes in the defense. I mean,
Yeah.
I know for that second goal for Diogo Jota's, two of the Man U defenders were just they ran into each other, and then the ball just happens by the feet of I think was it Salah or someone that just puts it in, and then it's a goal. So it was that was very unfortunate. By halftime they were like 4-0. And they showed like pictures, like video from outside the stadium, just fans pouring out of there. They were out at halftime because it was, 4-0 at halftime. It was not good. Liverpool was just dominant really the whole game. And then after halftime, pretty much immediately, Salah scores his 3rd goal, grabs his hat trick. It's 5-0, and Ronaldo. Actually, before halftime, I forgot to mention this. Ronaldo could have gotten a red. He was. You could see the frustrations getting to Manchester United. Ronaldo was fighting a ball, I think, with Jones over on the side, and Jones goes down, and he tries to like kick the ball away from him, ends up kicking him. And you can see the anger in him because he puts a lot of force into it. So you don't know if that's like an intentional, like was he expressing his frustration towards the player, or was he like legitimately trying to get the ball? You don't know. Eventually the ref just decided, it's just not clear enough, gives him a yellow. So he's lucky to walk away from that without a red.
Yeah.
But then the Manchester player that did get a red was Paul Pogba, because in the second half goes to fight a ball with Naby Keita, ends up going in with his studs up. First he's given a yellow, but then goes to VAR review, and ref gives him a straight red. He's sent off, and by that point, Manchester United's hopes of even tying were just dashed. They tried to grab a consolation goal. Cristiano Ronaldo put in a really good shot, but it was disallowed on an offside call, so that's unfortunate. And 5-0 at Old Trafford. Not a fun time for Manchester United fans. There was a lot of people commenting about, Ole is probably going to get sacked. He hasn't been sacked quite yet, but they haven't been having a terribly good season. They're 7th right now with 14 points. So I don't know what's going to happen here. Liverpool with that win actually goes up, stays in second with 21 points, just 1 point behind Chelsea, which is first. But we'll talk a little bit about that later. What do you think about it, Rio?
Yeah, I think as bad as the defense was, which is the reason that Man U is in 7th right now, I think part of it too is offensively they got really demoralized during that game, because when the defense gives up that many points, it's hard for the offense to focus and come back, especially when you're at home. You hear the crowd, just going off on you. You're facing a bitter rival, and like you said, the 202nd meeting. So this is one of the oldest rivalries in English football, and which is why people were so quick to say, "Oh yeah, Ole's gotta go," which in America that may seem a little reactionary or dramatic to fire a guy after one game, but this is a big history between these two teams, and to lose 5-0 against one of your arch rivals is just not gonna fly. Now, the defense, I thought that Liverpool's defense was almost as good as their offense. Not quite, because Salah was incredible and all that, but one kid that people were really talking about having essentially all of Man U's offense in his back pocket was Ibrahimo Konate, 22-year-old French center back who previously played for RB Leipzig, and he hasn't even had a full French cap in his name. He's still been on the U21, U22s, but he will be for the future, huge for the French national team. But he played a game, I think you would call it mature beyond his years, against a bitter rival away at Man U, played very well, kept everybody in check, and for then essentially forcing Man U to rely on a 36-year-old Ronaldo as their main offensive weapon. As good as, of course, he is, it's not good when you have to rely on a guy who's almost, 10 years older than the rest of the offense. So that's a lot for Man U to think about, because the defense had been in question previous. It wasn't like this was just a one-game thing. This has been going on beforehand. So it's tough to see if Man U is even going to be able to get back to where they were last season, which was in second place. So,
I don't know. I think, I think the Ole sack would be an overreaction if it was one game, but we're talking about just this season in general, and their Champions League performance hasn't been excellent either. They managed to, steal a win back from that Atalanta game. They were down 2-0, got back 3-2.
Yeah.
Well, let's see if they can do it again, because they got to face them again next week. So it's going to be interesting. We're going to see. I don't know how many more losses Ole can take before he's given his pink slip, but we'll see. Other results around the Premier League: Chelsea beat Norwich 7-0. Quite a game there. Chelsea was really dominant. There was just nothing Norwich could really do. With that game, Chelsea tops the table with 22 points. Man City beats Brighton 4-1. Phil Foden gets a brace with goals also from Gundogan and Mahrez. They positioned themselves at third with 20 points. Brighton is at fifth with 15. West Ham managed to somehow get right past the Spurs with a 72-minute goal by Antonio. They had several good chances, it's a close game.
West Ham looks good too. They're looking like a team that may go really far in the Europa League. They had a good game against, I can't quite remember who they beat, but they had a really good week in the Europa League, and they're doing pretty decently in the Premier League. So that's an interesting thing. Also, just of note, I think this just came out today. There is a billionaire from the Czech Republic who wants to buy a majority stake in West Ham. So we'll have to look out for that news. Nothing absolutely confirmed. It's just that's made some of the headlines. So who knows? West Ham's already owned by some pretty rich people, but we'll have to see what happens with that Czech guy.
That's interesting. We're starting to see more and more teams get bought out either entirely or partially by some people with big pockets. So we'll see.
Yes.
So with that win, West Ham 4th place with 17 points. The Spurs are 6th with 15. Liverpool, we already talked about Liverpool. And then we didn't have Champions League action this week. They were on break, but we did have a very historic rivalry over in Spanish La Liga.
That's right.
With El Clásico between Real Madrid and Barcelona. Ultimately, Madrid took the game with 2-1 win over Barcelona. Goals from David Alaba and Lucas Vazquez. Barca was attacking. Barca was were really trying, but they couldn't break until Aguero's stoppage time goal, and by that time it was too late.
More of a consolation goal.
Yeah, it was more of a consolation goal. Barcelona has not been doing great, and because of that, they actually sacked Ronald Koeman. So we'll see who's going to take over the Barcelona job. I mean, it's surprising because Barcelona has some really good talent in that team. What with Ansu Fati and some of the other players, Frankie de Jong, I'm surprised because de Jong a couple of years ago, he was a rising talent. He was, a couple of years ago, people were hot on him because he was big. He was, people were saying, he's gonna be one of the top players in a few years. And a few years have passed, and he's kind of faded into the background a bit more. So it raises a lot of questions. Obviously, Barcelona, without some of its previous big names, Messi's gone. Griezmann is gone, and Barcelona, for all intents and purposes, is broke. So the question is, what's going to happen here? Who can they bring in to maybe salvage the season? They're currently 9th in La Liga, which if you had told any Barcelona fan 3 or 4 years ago that they were going to be 9th in La Liga, they would have called you crazy. So it was, it's a surprise. But we'll see who they bring in to replace them. Also because they're in the middle of a Champions League bid. So that's going to be interesting. Madrid, of course, with that win, topped the table with 21 points. And, that's what we got for this week in soccer.
Alrighty. Well, before we wrap it up, Devon, do you have anything else you'd like to add today in general?
Chop on and go Braves.
Go Braves.
I
Yep,
agree.
That's right. Tomorrow night, 8:09 is the starting time on TBS. I believe Ian Anderson will be the starting pitcher for the Braves. I'm sure it'll be just an absolutely electric atmosphere. Again, a lot of traffic, so y'all please be careful out there when you're in that area. But yeah, it's nice. First time in our lifetimes that
There you
Atlanta
go.
hosted a World Series. So yeah, that's going to be very, very exciting. Again, games 3, 4, and 5 will all be in Atlanta.
Yes.
So crazy weekend. In
Of
Atlanta.
course.
Atlanta United, really trying to improve their playoff position against Toronto.
Decision day is coming up. So
last home game, right?
this is the last home game. The next 2 are away at Red Bulls and Cincinnati.
But
Wow.
huge opportunities.
We have every Atlanta sports team playing right now.
Yep, and I think
That's
That's
insane.
unheard of, right?
That's so weird.
the Hawks, although tonight's game is at Washington, I believe they have a home game over the weekend as well. Let me just
It's against Philadelphia, I think.
Yeah.
76ers.
Yeah, they're having Saturday night they're going to be playing. So Saturday's going to be a crazy day. 3 sports.
Gosh.
Three Atlanta
3
sports.
Atlanta
All
sports.
Saturday night.
Saturday night looks like they're at the.
Plus
they're
Harry
at
Styles.
Philly.
They're away at Philly.
They're away at
they're
Philly, and then after
Okay.
that is
Monday is
when
when they come back.
Okay,
but
good,
still.
because that was going to
That
be a
would've
nightmare
been-
to go through downtown.
Nightmare to just get to the perimeter.
That would have been just like the purge. Like it
Yeah,
would not have
that's
been good.
insane.
You might as well walk. You would get there faster walking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
But yeah, exciting stuff. And I think that just about wraps it up. So thank you, everybody, so much for listening. And for OWL Radio, this is Rio White with Devon Delarm and Henry Higuita. Thank you so much, and have a